Now, it seems more and more of us aren't satisfied with our accent. In fact, a recent survey found 1 in 5 people are changing the way they speak to fit in. Apparently, some of us try to sound more sophisticated at job interviews or to impress a date, or maybe even to read the news, while others are toning down their twang. So is it ever right for us to change the way we talk? Jake Tutman went to find out more.
Former England manager Steve McLaren did it in Holland. Footballer Joey Barton did it in France. And Chancellor George Osborne did it in front of a whole load of supermarket staff.
For too long, we've had a system where...
I am, of course, talking about changing their accent.
Now, here in London, there are plenty of schools where both native and non-native English speakers can go to soften their accent. But why would anyone want to change the way they sound? Is it to make them more employable? Is it to make them easier to understand? Is it to make them sound more sophisticated? Or is it simply to fit in?
I went to meet London School of English voice coach Dolly May, hoping she could shed some light on the issue.
So I would get people to kind of squash their face around and stick their tongue out and make their eyes big and make it all small. And it's just really about animating and stretching the face, a bit like an athlete when they're getting ready for a big game or something, or a big show, or a dancer. You have to stretch these things, they're muscles. If people come to me and they say, can you make me sound English? I want to get rid of my accent completely. And I always say to them, it's not really about getting rid of your accent, because that's part of who you are. You are Spanish, or you are from Newcastle, or, you know, wherever it is, these strong regional accents or foreign accents. But essentially what it is about, are you easy to understand? And is it an enjoyable experience to have a conversation with you? There's also a hell of a lot of foreign workers here. So you have a lot of people coming with very strong foreign accents, a whole different rhythm and melody structure from their mother tongue, and they've got the language down, but they're not being understood.
Whereas posh accents, or RP, used to be desirable, it is now regional accents that are most popular.
Having a tough accent like mine in this day and age is just no good at all. So she's going to show me some techniques to help me change my accent to sound a little less posh.
Right. Imagine that this just becomes...
Duh.
Yeah. It's the 18th time.
Sound there.
Yeah, it's the 18th time.
It's the 18th time. I've got to get out of here. It's the 18th time.
Yeah, wicked.
And even though my accent might not be the most desirable, I think for the moment I'll stick with it.
And the British Council is currently holding an exhibition exploring the English language and investigating whether people are discriminated against because of their accents. Here to discuss that is Emma Serlin. She's the founder of the London Speech Workshop. Timothy Blake from the London School of Language, one of the oldest English language schools in the UK, and London Live's very own Rhiann Hughes. Now, Emma, is Jake too posh? Is this something that he needs to die down? Is this not helping him in life?
Well, I wouldn't say being posh actually helps you, but good communication, strong intonation, being able to articulate what you want to say and having clarity, having final consonants, strong vowels, clarity is the big thing. Yeah, that can really help.
So why do you think that is? Why does how you sound and how you communicate and the clarity of your words, unless I think I actually think I'm making more of an effort to make sure I say my words properly in front of you. Why do you think that makes such a difference?
I think it's the way we express ourselves in the world. It's the way we relate to other people. So we can have all these great ideas, these sort of brilliant mind insight, but if we don't have a way to get it out, a way to express our inner thoughts, then we're blocked and we can't relate. We can't share our ideas.
Tim, do you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, well, I think communication is essentially what we're talking about, and if you can't get across what you want to say, then you're failing on your communication. And the people who come to us definitely are trying to make sure that they can become effective. That means, most importantly perhaps, is that people continue to listen to them. If you are boring, people will turn off. If you're hard work to listen to, people will just not bother. And so it's really important that you are an interesting person to be with.
So what kind of people are you getting through your doors then?
Oh, we have, we're an English language school. It's the London School of English, actually, so we have about 2,500 people a year coming through the doors. They're not all looking for the sorts of courses that we're talking about now, but some of them are, because they're aware of the fact that the way in which they come across has a significant impact on their career prospects, how people relate to them, We've got, for example, a client who's working with us next week who is working in banking and is aware of the fact that he doesn't always give the impression that he wants to. He needs to calibrate the way in which he's coming across in order to be more effective in his work.
Do you think that's right, though? Do you think they could just be paranoid? They could be just worried and self-insecurities about themselves?
Oh, occasionally this may happen. I think we've got to distinguish between the different features as well. For example, accent can be very charming. Most people couldn't lose their accent completely, but we wouldn't want them to anyway. And what would we want them to become? English is a world language. English is used in many, many different ways in different parts of the world. We don't possess it any longer, so we're not imperialist about this. But people are tolerant of error. They will put up with mistakes in grammar, vocabulary, and things like that. But sometimes if people's intonation gives an impression, then people don't realize that that is itself a mistake. If you come across as aggressive, people think you're being aggressive. They don't realise that your natural intonation pattern is typical of what we in the UK think of as being aggressive.
Well, Rhian, how do people with your Welsh accent, how do people in London respond to that, would you say?
I get taken the mick out of quite a lot of time, but I would be really offended if someone said to me to tone down my accent or to speak a bit differently, because it's my identity, it's who I am, and it might be a little bit sing-songy, but I think that's even more charming. I don't think I should change it for anybody.
So you never see somebody like Emma, then?
No. It's my identity.
Is she right to have that view?
I actually did a psychology dissertation on accents and identity, so I totally know where you're coming from. And for us, it's all about giving people the tools to be more effective and more confident. And actually, it's when you come at it from that angle, it's very little to do with accent, and it's so much more to do with how do you deliver your ideas to the other person. And often that does have an effect of slightly neutralising an accent and clearing it up, but it's not accent change.
But I think, I don't know, there's that effect on someone's characteristics because it's part of their personality, who they are. So you're asking someone to change it slightly, and I don't think that's right.
So for us, there's a big thing about being more fully who you are and who you feel inside. And if someone doesn't feel that it's holding them back or blocking them from being them, then brilliant, there's no problem. But a lot of the people who come to us say, actually, I feel that the way I speak isn't truly representing who I am and who I want to be.
I think it's particularly true if you're in fact a foreign learner, because for them the interference may be quite significant. I mean, no one, I'm sure, is suggesting that if you're Welsh you should sound any less Welsh, unless you want to sound less Welsh for some reason.
Never.
And I would
Never.
And I wouldn't ever suggest that you should.
Well, this is it. We live in London, lots of diverse voices and accents. Let's see what you guys have been saying on social media about this and how you feel. So first up, John on Facebook said, I'm very proud of my Geordie accent. Living in London, I would never change it as I find most people love it. I'm told I sound warm and welcoming. Next up, we've got Benjamin, who says, I can speak with a posh accent, but I suppose there's some stigma associated with that. And this last up, we got a tweet as well. We got Liam, who says, as a Trinidadian in London, I've had to speak much more slowly, but I think I've managed to keep my accent. So we've got a couple of people there saying that actually they're embracing their accent. In fact, it's agreeing with Rhian, they're saying it's what makes them who they are, and people love it. They say it's warm and welcoming. So do you think sometimes having your services can exacerbate maybe issues that we could perhaps deal with?
I think we live in a society, particularly in England, which does have prejudices towards accents, and so giving people the tools to manage that can be really helpful, particularly in some industries. So you go into the finance industry. I had a client once who he spoke almost perfect neutral English. He was from, I think, Manchester. And yet he said his R for the R sound was so he said money instead of money, and glass instead of glass. And for in any other environment, that would be fine, except in his world that was financial.
But why isn't it fine? Why in these, perhaps more professional environments, law, legal, finance, why do you think they can't just accept these different accents?
Prejudiced ears, perhaps.
Pardon?
Prejudiced ears. No, but the fact is that if somebody is expecting something, I mean, I think things have changed. I mean, there was a time, for example, when on broadcast media, everybody spoke with received pronunciation, BBC English. You can't talk about BBC English anymore because BBC and other broadcasting organisations has a very wide range of accents. And that's great. I mean, none of us, I'm sure, sitting around this table is in any way suggesting that we want to eliminate diversity. What we're talking about is communication, confidence, because one of the factors that people may have is that they may feel that the way they speak, they feel embarrassed by it. Now, of course, the big picture should be that they should stop feeling embarrassed about it. But if you can't achieve that, maybe one thing you can do is to help them fit in a little bit more.
All right, OK, well, Tim, let's take a look. So sorry, Rianne, let's take a quick look at the poll results. We'll get back to that. We asked you, have you ever changed your accent? 56% of you said yes, you have changed your accent, and 44% of you said no. Rianne, are you surprised by this?
Yeah, I just feel I'd be less confident if someone asked me to change it a little bit, because it's not who I am. You should embrace who you are before...
We're not talking about anyone asking you to change it. It's so much as whether or not you yourself feel a need that you would like to. Now, I would never ask anyone to change their accent. And I absolutely agree with you that if sounding the way you are is you, then for God's sake, stay that way.